All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to ShoutCraft America, round of 8. We're going to be going into the second matchup here. We just saw Ghosty User play a pretty phenomenal series against Puck. Puck apologizing to everyone for apparently not playing up to his potential there, but now we're going to be seeing a little bit of Zerg versus Terran action. Probably the most hyped matchup today between two fantastic players. And I'm going to bring them onto the call right now, and we can hear exactly what they have to say for each other. All right, guys, welcome. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, man. How's it going?
How's it going?
It's all right. It's not too bad. QXC, so you had a chance to play yesterday, and you ran into a couple of problems, as it turns out. It was not the easy group that some people thought it would be for you.
Yeah, I mean, State is pretty underrated because he doesn't play in a lot of events, but he's got a pretty good understanding of the versus Protoss matchup. And I knew my match against the Insider would be tough, but I don't know. I got a little bit lucky, I think, but it worked out.
So, Kane, you were one of two players to go through your group 4-0 in terms of map score. You were looking pretty dominant. Now you've got to play another Zerg versus Terran. How are you feeling going into this matchup?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. QXC is kind of past his prime at this point. I would say he's kind of a washed-up player. I mean, like, he had good results a couple years ago, but at this point it's kind of like, I don't know, we're all just kind of waiting for him to retire, so we'll see. Hopefully after this match.
Alright, okay. So things are on, it would appear, already between these two. Kane, a little bit cocky. QXC, this up-and-comer, seriously.
I mean, did you remember I made that comment yesterday? That's what he was referring to.
Which comment? I didn't actually watch your games. I assumed that you would get first, but it seemed like you really struggled, so I don't know.
At the end of when me and Zeno were talking about how we felt about the next person we were playing, I made that exact same comment, because I didn't think Kane was that good anymore.
Anymore?
Yeah.
I'm just hitting my prime, baby.
Okay, we'll see.
Oh, this is going to be good. I can see it. This is delicious. This is fantastic. All right, now, QXC, how much opportunity have you really had to run into Kane on the ladder? Because as we discussed yesterday, you, for the most part, do not practice on US ladder.
I played him a little bit, but I think with a lot of the players, especially in the ShoutCraft, they had either kind of finished laddering last season when I was really going hard, and I also play at different times for most North Americans because I wake up pretty early, so I haven't played Kane that much. We played a couple of practice games here and there, but it's been a while.
So, Kane, where exactly does your confidence against QXC come from? Is that just mindless bragging, or do you have a reason for feeling that way?
No, in all honesty, QXC is a really good player. I think that I am favored in this matchup, but you definitely got to respect him as a player. I think he's quite good, and yeah, it'll be a good match to watch, I think, for sure.
All right, QXC, any final words for your opponent today before we start off on Star Station?
Take notes.
Kane.
We'll see. Let's just see how these games go.
All right, okay, guys, to your stations, and we're going to be having a very fun best-of-5 series between you two. No question about that. All right, Greg. So, QXC is, of course, a player that you have faced repeatedly. You've had a lot of experience against him.
I'm just really sad that Kane backed out on the BM at the end there, because he's always talked a lot of trash on ladder, but then been really nice and quiet in person and stuff. I thought he was finally like coming out of his shell and maturing into an asshole, but then he goes and backs down at the end of it and takes all the oomph out of it.
Ah, yeah,
it's no fun at all.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, Kane went into his games with quite a bit of bravado, honestly, and he was able to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. Now, I'm intrigued to see what's going to end up happening between these two. It's going to be Star Station once again. I'm going to find out whose map choice it was. This is good to know. But who would you call going into this one? QXC, the man of experience. Kane has been around for a while, but I don't think has really been recognized until very recently.
I would say if it was just flat out on skill and ability, Kane for sure, but QXC definitely the more experienced player, and Kane has struggled at live events at least. He seems to be coming into his own at least a little bit for online tournaments, but definitely not as much of an experienced competitive player. So that edge goes to QXC, and QXC also has a weird style, and we're not sure just how used to it Kane is, because, like he said, he doesn't play too much on the NA server, and he plays at weird times, so they haven't played each other a ton. And QXC is capable of some really weird stuff, and Kane is a little bit more robotic, at least I get that feel from him, so he may not respond to that too well. So I would say, in terms of the absolute skill and everything, that goes towards Kane, but all the intangibles, those are much more going in QXC's favor.
All right, well, we'll see which is able to take the win here on Star Station. These guys are just getting set up, and I am really excited for this. Like, I like watching QXC play, and you can call me a bit of a Kane fan after his performance in his particular group, but I am interested to see how he performs in the best of 5 with just a flash in the pan for Kane. And has QXC actually really had a huge amount of chance to prepare? Neither of these guys have really had much preparation time, simply because it ended up being QXC only getting his place in this round of 8 yesterday. So neither of these guys really knew until yesterday exactly who they would be facing, although, of course, they could have made an educated guess.
Yeah, although I think a lot of people, like you said before, would have predicted QXC coming in first in that group. I don't know if his money was really on playing against QXC, and QXC is so weird. It's not like you can prepare for both Zenicider and QXC at the same time. Totally different styles. So probably not too prepared for this. And Kane also, he's kind of a ladder hero. He has one style that he has planned out for every matchup, and he knows how to adapt within that style. But he's not like a creative player. He hasn't played a ton of series. He's not, honestly, that experienced at this kind of format and preparation and whatnot. So I would be surprised if even if he had the time, he really did too much with that. So I think Kane is just going to go in this trying to play his own game, and then it's going to be a matter of whether or not QXC is able to throw him off the tracks.
Well, let's find out, shall we? Here we are on Star Station to the southwest position. This is Cross Spawn's only version, ladies and gentlemen. In the red trunks, playing Zerg, it is ROOTKane versus his opponent to the northeast position in the blue trunks, playing Terran, Complexity QXC. I have no idea what Kane is doing. That's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's just what we wanted. The wonderful thing about Allied chat in this version is that we are the only people that have to suffer this nonsense and not QXC.
Lucky QXC.
Yes, indeed. Well, I am really interested to see what Kane decides to break out here. I think your early assessment was definitely correct. I don't expect to see anything funky out of Kane. The style that we saw from him was, I would just describe it as really solid. I don't think there was anything particularly exceptional about it, but there was nothing really wrong with it either. And as a direct result, compared to a player like QXC, who you can talk about QXC's builds, and you can say, well, QXC's the kind of guy that will break out something very creative, something very strange. As a Terran player on North American ladder, he's probably, in my opinion anyway, one of the most creative.
Yeah, definitely. The Mass Widowmine build I mentioned before, that got a ton of hype, but he also has plenty of other weird, funky little stuff. He approaches the game in a very thoughtful manner. He doesn't just copy what everyone else does. He tries to come up with his own different little ways to break the game. So if anyone's going to come up with something weird, it's going to be him. And we see a very fast CC first in the wall in. So we'll see if Kane was actually watching meta and if he's going to do Katz's hatchery block. I would be pretty surprised if he did that, but
it would be pretty hilarious.
He does manage to scout it immediately, which means he could go 3-hash before pool, but actually just opting to put down a pool at the normal timing. So he's not really taking advantage of the fact that he sees CC first at all. It's just kind of strange.
Yeah, it's a little bit
very
odd.
quick gas.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like, really? What exactly is he going to intend to actually do with that, I wonder?
I'm not sure. Kane, not a gigantic tournament player. We don't see too many public games from him, so obviously I know his ZVZ really well from playing him, but I haven't seen too much of his ZVT. I've heard he likes very fast Ultra builds, and so that was kind of why I thought he picked this map. You just do a quick 3-base Ultraless timing, you attack their third since it's so exposed with those Ultras, and go from there. But a quick Speedling opening after scouting CC first, I find pretty strange. Generally, me as a player, I only go Speedling if I know that I have to defend their Reaper or quick Hellion build. Against Fast CC, I see no reason not to take just as much economy and be as greedy as you can. So I'm not sure if this means that he's going to try some kind of Speedling pressure, if it's setting him up for a Roach all-in, or if he just likes having those Speedlings out for map control as he takes his third. But QXC is going to see it, he's going to know exactly what's coming, and we just kind of have to wait and see what Kane's going to make of it.
Yeah, the speed is coming, and I would tend to agree with your assessment there in the sense that what can speed really gain you in this kind of situation? Not a huge amount. What you are absolutely correct about, by the way, is that he does tend to favor that fast Ultralisk style. We saw exactly that in his games versus Massa, which resulted in a 2-0 sweep. I mean, those games were wild in the sense that it was constant aggression from both sides back and forth, but honestly, the Speedling Ultralisk style that Kane plays, he plays very, very well. He's always taking good engagements, and he's not doing the thing that some players tend to with Ultralisks, which is just kind of charge them into really stupid places where they can't really do anything, and they end up getting stuck against rocks and in bad arcs of fire.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he was able to control them very, very well. We are seeing a very fast lair from Kane here.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of roach uses that have been gaining a lot of popularity recently. A 1-1 speed roach timing, but we see no Evo chamber, so it's definitely not that. Roach Nidus is always kind of a very, very cheesy option. If it gets scouted, if it's denied, that's the end of the game. It has no transition. The more reliable option we could see out of him is a fast 2-base Muta, but his gases are a little bit late for that, and he does just put down a Roach Warren now, so it is going to be some kind of cheesy Roach play. Just immediate speed Roach, perhaps. Definitely some kind of weird build, but we just have to see. No 4th gas just yet, so I think it will just be a speed Roach all in. And QXC already with that 3rd CC coming down and going straight up to Starport, a couple of Hellions out, he definitely could be vulnerable to this. He's not doing anything like putting down 3 barracks and going straight Marine Marauder. That would just absolutely destroy a quick Roach build, but he's not doing that. He is going for tech and fast economy. So if this catches him off guard, it could definitely work.
We're seeing a lot of Roach use. It is actually going to be the Nidus play by the looks of it that you mentioned earlier, and this is pretty much all or nothing here. The Roach use against Terran has seemed to gain a little bit of popularity lately, and we're actually going to see a bit of mech action here from QXC, but it's gained a bit of popularity lately against Terran, who have gone for that really fast 3rd CC. We've seen Korean Terrans fall to it. We saw, of course, Supper use Roach Bane all-ins to take out Ryung 2-0 in WCS Premier, and it seems to work pretty well because you don't see that large Marauder swell earlier on in the game these days. And there is the Nidus Worm. It is prepared. It's going down in the corner here. It's going to be immediately scouted by QXC. Those 2 Hellions are not enough to actually kill that Nidus before it goes up, though.
Yeah, he pulls the SUVs, but they're a little bit late. He might manage to get Roaches out of there. It's going to be really, really close.
Oh, here it goes, and
he does hit it just in time.
Yep, he got a couple out there. The Hellions are getting good shots in the corner here. Bunch of SCVs are certainly taking damage. A second one is coming down. I wonder if he could successfully defend the second Nidus Worm, actually. The SCVs are more worried about the Roaches than they are about the Nidus Worm. All the SCVs now coming off the line. And can he get anything out of it? No, he can't, because Nidus Worms are made of paper. And the aggression is now over. How much damage was done? 6 workers killed for those Roaches and the double Nidus. Probably not worthwhile. He's going for another Nidus play. QXC is slightly out of range of it. He doesn't see it.
This is the make or break moment. This is the last real chance he has. If it goes on any longer, QXC is going to secure. And QXC actually finds the Nidus Worm, and he's going to be able to take it down. Some Roach is going to get out, but he just needs to focus that Worm. No, but he's actually scared off. He's going to give it up. And there's not many units at all here. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hold at this point. He really needed to deny that.
He's Nidusing the main as well. He's just repeatedly Nidusing the same targets, and now Kane is just rolling forward all over QXC's base. There's a single Marauder that must be feeling like the most important man in the world right now, but is rapidly going to find out that this is a bad idea. There is a Banshee in the mix as well. That Nidus is now opened up in the main base, and QXC is being overrun here.
Yeah, that's just the end of it. He was supply blocked going into that second attack, so he has almost no units to fall back on. Roach is just in the natural, taking everything out. 2 Niduses up, so even if he manages to take down 1, there's still going to be that influx of units. You know, 2 factories producing, but the Hellions almost do nothing against the Roaches. That's the end of it.
Well, there you go. So this was Kane's map choice. He evidently prepared for exactly this, and it worked to a T, really. What would it have really taken to actually stop that, aside from obviously killing the worms quicker? If there was a slightly different build from QXC, would he have held that any better?
Well, all different kinds of builds can be more successful against that. QXC was honestly being about as greedy as you can be. 3 CCs, then opening up, keeping with the Hellions, not getting any Widow Mines, not getting any tanks out very quickly, heading straight up to Starport. That was basically about as greedy and undefensive as you can play, and I guess he just wasn't counting on Nidus. He was counting on having that rush distance to keep him safe. But the biggest thing was just he needed to target down those worms. If he had caught, because he was very, very close to defending. Honestly, like I said, if he had caught that worm outside his natural just a little bit earlier and managed to kill it, I think he wins, because then he has production going, he has map control, he's stabilized. That was kind of the make or break moment. It just happened to get up in time. He didn't see it quite fast enough, and that was the end of it. But it was a cheese that worked out. It just came down to that.
And that's what people really should be doing in these kind of best-of-5 series, is tossing in something a little bit unusual every now and again in order to throw your opponent off balance. Now it's QXC's map choice, and he has picked Acolyte Wastes. I would certainly expect a much more traditional game coming out here.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And the great part about cheesing in the first game in a series is that it messes with your opponent. Like QXC, he's a very creative player, like we were saying. Creative players need to have control of the game more often than not, because they usually have prepared builds. They have planned intelligent things. They're not making decisions like in the moment. You don't want to be able to do that, because that's just, it takes much more time. It's less efficient. You're often going to make wrong decisions. So usually you have things planned out. But if then you're thrown off by your opponent doing a cheese the first game, you don't know what he's going to do the next game. And a lot of the time that makes you mess with your game plan to try and accommodate things, and then just nothing works as well as it should. Yeah. So getting that kind of mental advantage early on in a series is just so huge.
And it's going to be great against a player like QXC, who I feel like QXC likes to be the guy who has the mental control over a game and plays the game at his own pace and dictates it. Says, I have this strategy and this is how I want to play it, and you're going to have to learn to adapt to me, not the other way around. So that may have thrown him off just a little bit, but I feel his experience will win out there.
I would hope so for his sake, but yeah, you're absolutely right. If you're just a passive macro player and you get cheesed the first game, you're just like, oh well, I'm gonna try and defend that the next one, and I'm gonna keep playing the same thing. But if you're an aggressive player, if you're a strategy-based player, you're like, now how do I have to deal with that? What do I change in my build to deal with that? You know, everything is much more volatile with that kind of a player, and so you have to think more about the interactions instead of just trying to defend it and get into your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So, and in QXC in particular, he loves those fast expansions, that CC first, the fast tech builds, and all of those builds are very fragile. And it looks like Kane's actually
that's
dropping.
Unfortunate. Yep, that's Kane with an interesting strategy here. We'll see if it pays off for him.
He's trying to ice QXC.
Yeah.
Just mess with his nerves.
Yes, that was unfortunate timing right there. Oh well. Well, I was hoping to try and minimize downtime in this tournament, but it turns out Battle.net definitely doesn't want that to happen, so... Oh well. Well, it looks like we're going to have to go for a remake here. I think it's kicked me out as well in the process, so that was fun. Oh well. We will have a quick break while we reset up the game, folks, and when we come back, it will be Game 2 on Acolyte Wastes between Kane and QXC. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the downtime. It's Battle.net's fault, so you can just send angry emails to Blizzard. Yeah, just do that. I'll be fine. They'll love it.
Oh, I just got dropped now.
Oh, for crying out loud. Oh, man. Yeah, we lost one of the Argentinian commentators as well, so... And I just got dropped as well. Battle.net is a fun place. It's a great place to frolic and have enjoyable games. And the best and most challenging StarCraft thing is to actually get into a lobby and have it stay there. But, oh well. We'll wait for the 4th or 5th remake, and then we'll see where it goes. Greg, can you relog? Apparently that relogging does help this issue, so we'll try and get this sorted out momentarily. Well, in the meantime, Kane currently leads 1-0 against QXC going forward here. QXC caught off guard by certainly a cheese, a very, very good cheese, but a cheese nonetheless. And I don't think that's really indicative of how this series is going to go. Acolyte Wastes, it seems like it will be a much more straight-up map to play on between these two, and let's see if QXC can try to dictate the tempo here. The last thing you want is to be unbalanced by some weirdness from your opponent.
Yeah, this is his map choice, so he's certainly comfortable with this, and I'm honestly kind of worried that he's going to be doing that very turtleneck style, because if there's ever a map built for that, it's Acolyte.
Yeah.
With those 4 easy bases, everything can be controlled by like 1 or 2 tanks on the high ground, and then pretty good drop harass opportunities against your opponent as well. The bases are also like close by air, far by ground, so I think we could definitely be seeing that kind of play out of QXC. Wow. But then maybe Kane is just going to Rotinitis him again and not let him get to that point.
Oh man, if this went 3-0 with 3 Rotinitis, I think I just have to flip a table and just quit casting Starcraft 2 altogether. It's like, you know guys, this is, I understand the whole you've got to win thing, but Jesus, can we have something different?
Yeah, I'm almost sure we will. Kane is very much, he's willing to mix in cheese, but he also plays macro games quite a bit, more often than not. He's not like Hello Kitty or anything like that, so I would be very surprised if he tried something like that again. But maybe it is mind games. Maybe he knows that QXC plays weird and he doesn't want to let him get into that situation.
Alright, we're going to give the lobby like a 5th or 6th attempt here, and we'll see how it goes. We've had pretty much everybody relog. See if that'll fix it. If not, then there will be, unfortunately, more downtime as we try to wrestle with the beast that is Battle.net. Alright, do we have anybody? Yeah. Foreign casters, yeah, we're just waiting for the other foreign casters to actually get in here, unfortunately, as the admin says. They do tend to miss the remake message. GameHard does actually have one annoying problem in that in the lobby, the text disappears too fast, so you can't actually read the chat log. Not really sure why that's there.
Is the disconnect thing a GameHard issue or a Battle.net issue?
Seems to be a Battle.net issue as far as we can tell. It's been happening quite a bit for a couple of different tournaments, which is why you're seeing a lot of downtime. GSTL actually had a ton of downtime yesterday, and I believe it was as a direct result of that.
That's unfortunate.
Indeed.
But it looks like it's starting now, and we kind of have it overall.
Yeah.
For the time being.
That'll be nice, yeah. If we're missing one of the players, we can just sub in one of the foreign casters. I'm sure we'll do fine.
Right. Or I can just go back to playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like IdrA plays the winner. Great tournament idea. Okay. There we go. We are in. Please, for the love of God, do not disconnect this time around. I've been on this versus screen for the past 4 minutes, and don't get me wrong, it's a cool, damn cool looking versus screen, but there's only so much I can stare at that Ultra. It's scaring the hell out of me. Alright, QXC and Kane, they are racked up and ready to rock and roll. Let's do it. Go, go, go. Please work. Please don't die. And here we are. Huh.
I still have not dropped. You can't breathe cyber relief yet,
nope.
just yet.
Nope.
You dropped it 2 last
3,
time.
2, 1. Ah, excellent.
And we made it.
Yeah. Now that you're getting into the casting gig, you now understand the most challenging thing about casting is more often than not actually getting into the map.
Yeah. Oh yeah, talking about games easy. I've been learning this for like 5 years. It's filling the downtime that sucks.
Yeah. That's the real problem, isn't it? Especially when you get into a tournament where something's going horribly wrong. It's like, well, my keyboard's broken. We're going to do 20 minutes of readjusting it. Well, let's talk about the bracket. It's like, let's show the bracket again. God, it can get really, really unfortunate really quickly. I do always feel very much for both the tournaments that have to fill the downtime and the casters that end up being stuck on the spot trying desperately to entertain the audience.
Much more for the casters. It's pretty easy for the tournament to say, okay, go talk for an hour. It's the people who actually have to do it.
Yeah, that's very, very true. We don't get paid extra for that kind of thing. Alright, here we are. Acolyte wastes, ladies and gentlemen, as Kane serenades us once again. He can't spell, so it's not going all that well for him. Northwest position on Acolyte. I don't even know what that is, and I don't want to know.
That's Korean.
Yeah, it is Korean, but I wonder what it says. These better not be K-pop lyrics.
I didn't know you could do that.
He must have copy-pasted that. There was no way in a million years he can type Korean that quickly.
No, I didn't know you could copy-paste Hangul in Battle.net, though. Like with the North American version.
That's interesting. Well, we learn something new every day. Alright, folks, here we go. Red Trunks are on Kane today. He is the Zerg player to the Northwest position. Versus his opponent, who took a bit of a rockin' in the first game, thanks to some nice, delicious Nidus cheese. It is Complexity QXC playing Terran in the blue.
And actually going for CC first again on the low ground this time, so deciding that it wasn't quite risky enough last time.
No.
Go whole hog this time.
Yeah, the QXC actually did CC first like 3 games in a row against State and ended up losing 2 games to 1. And immediate harassment is going to happen. This is why I'm really, really confused that he was going for that in the first place. It seems like so easy to harass that if you actually drone scout. I wonder if he was banking on that not happening.
I don't know, but double CC is definitely his go-to build. I'd say 70-80% of the latter games we play, he does open CC first, and then just the occasional Reaper to mix it up and keep his opponent honest. And actually, we see a very fast gas from Kane again, so it could be another cheese. Because there's almost no reason to go speedling against CC first unless you want to do something cheesy. Because you don't need speedlings to defend anything, and any good Terran will have a wall and up to prevent, or at least a bunker up to prevent speedling harass. So if he's not going to transition into some kind of 2 base again, I'd be very, very surprised.
Well, I wonder if QXC is actually going to go for the triple CC build, and I kind of hope that he doesn't, especially considering what he did here. Going for that CC first on the low ground, not even part of the wall off. He has taken gas, though.
Yeah, he has. So definitely going to go mech again. Well, not mech again, but definitely going to open up with at least a factory. Not going to go a bunch of barracks, which is kind of the safer route.
Yeah.
If you're going 3 barracks, if you got some marauders out, you're not going to die to anything early on. But then, of course, you don't have the map control and the harass potential. So pretty much no one does that. And that's what makes those roach builds so powerful within the current metagame. And then the thing, no second gas just yet, so it's not going to be some kind of super fast tech out of QXC. just waiting to see if he's going to put down that third CC or not, because that's going to be, you put down that third CC, you're going to be pretty vulnerable to a lot of things, especially because he hasn't SCV scouted just yet, so he doesn't know that Kane is going Speedling. He'll know in a second, but doesn't know just yet.
Yeah, and he might actually not even get into the base. It depends if that queen's in a good position. He's already taken some damage from these lings. When he makes this turn, he's going to take 2 more hits. QXC's actually heading over to look and see if there is a quick third base, which...
Yep. This is actually pretty smart by him. He knows that by going this late, the queen's already going to be out. He's not going to get into the main, so he's just checking both third base opportunities. He sees no third base. He knows that it is a Speedling opening without actually having to get in and die.
Very, very cool. And QXC now setting up the defensive position in the same way. Kind of the more old-school style of bunker placement there so that it denies an awful lot of Speedling coverage. Makes it a little bit more difficult to take down. And now we're going to see what comes out of this. We have a Starport coming down. We've got double Hellion coming in as well. So a number of different possibilities available here. And a second gas coming down here for QXC as well.
Yeah, definitely opening up more conservatively. You already had the third CC started by this point in the last game. We're just going to have to see if that Starport's going to be for medevacs. It is going to be a Hellbat drop then. Yep. And also he's going to have those Hellbat drops for defensive necessary. But looking back at Kane's base, Kane has actually just put down that third base, not going any kind of super fast tech. I would have to imagine that this is mind games then, because QXC sees those Speedlings, he sees that delayed third, he thinks he's going to cheese me again, he saw double CC, he's going to open that way for a reason. And then Kane just goes ahead and puts down that third command center. So he now has a little bit of an economic advantage because he's putting down that third base and QXC has foregone the third CC for now. And now it just becomes a matter of whether or not Kane can actually defend that Hellbat drop efficiently. And the answer, of course, is going to be no, because Hellbat drops have never defended efficiently.
Now, I'm not going to disagree with you, considering that my ladder ranking has shot up significantly since the Hellbat was introduced into the game. But one way or the other, it is extremely difficult to say that a Hellbat drop isn't efficient, because it generally involves dedicating 200 minerals. Unless you lose the medevac, you're pretty much gonna get what you need out of that. Kill 4 drones with that, and you're pretty much golden. A Roach Warren is being added on here. I noticed that Kane is really, really delaying lair tech. Even adding on a Baneling, that's 11 Roaches coming out here.
Yep, it's going to be a Roach Bane all-in. Not as all-in as it could be, given that he does have that third hatch that he can establish behind it, but definitely going to be a big, heavy attack. And if we look at QXC's base, he has that one bunker that's pretty exposed. Banelings can get to it, Roaches can get to it. Then he has 4 Hellions. And those 4 Hellions aren't out on the map. Those aren't controlling the Zerglings, so it's entirely possible with Banelings right there. But at the same time, we do have a Hellion drop coming in main. Those aren't Hellbats yet, though. And there's a Spine Crawler, or a Spore Crawler, pardon me, in the main.
Nice traditional Hellion drop here. And that'll do a pretty decent amount of damage. He is going to lose the medevac in the process, but he did get a lot of drones with that shot.
Yeah, really sloppy losing the medevac, getting a ton of drones, and at this point, Kane is pretty much all in. That's a ton of drones down. But if you look at the army size and you compare to QXC, he's now getting Hellbats out. He does have a tank on the way. The tank is a very big deal because obviously it comes with Siege now, and he's evacuating the SCVs from his natural. Really smart move by him, getting them on the wall to help pull that off. And the tank is back. They're going to Siege up. And he actually gets in there and he takes down the depot and he's going to get in and be able to connect with the tank. And it looks like QXC is going to have a really hard time holding this off.
Yep, the tank's about to die as well. There's really no units aside from those couple of Hellbats coming in. If he can keep producing Hellbats and hold on efficiently, maybe he gets out of this. This is not the time for QXC to lag out.
Oh, boy.
This is definitely not the time for QXC to lag out at all. Man.
So, that situation, there's no Banelings left, I believe.
No, all the Banelings are down. There's 12 Lings following this up. There is a Banshee. Another tank's about to pop out, and he's working on +1 a couple of Hellbats. If he doesn't lose too many SCVs here, considering the significant damage that was done to his opponent's economy, maybe he gets out of that. But this is really annoying. Obviously, resuming from replay here is actually going to be ridiculously difficult, because if we resume before this fight happens, we basically give them both a do-over, which...
Yeah. I'm not sure how precisely you can do it, but you really should do it at least after he blows down the wall under the ramp and gets in there and kills the tank. Because at this point, I think QXC is actually going to clear that up, and then it's just a matter of holding the follow-up lanes, like getting his Marines back into bunker in time. Because those Roaches, I think, will die to the Marines and the SCVs.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. The Marines are on the low ground there as well. The Roaches are for the most part surrounded. The Hellbats, even though you say, hey, the Hellbats are not that good. Well, they are if Roaches are clumped up, and they take a little bit of time to kill as well. With the second tank coming out, assuming that it doesn't pop out into the middle of the Roaches and can actually get behind the factory, then that should be a cleanup. This is going to be very, very tricky to do, and this will take a little bit of time because we have to time it specifically in the way that you just described, and the lobby at the start actually counts as game time in the replay. So what's going to have to happen is we're going to have our admin watch the replay, and then he is going to have to determine the precise timing at which he will have to start the game up, and we're going to have to not fuck it up. So, this is going to be fun. You know, as nice a feature as that is, that was perhaps the worst possible disconnection time I've seen in the past, like, 2 years of StarCraft. Oh,
yeah,
man.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah. That's a really hard call to make as well. Like, if you were to make an admin call there, you can't...
I don't think you can. That's right at the tipping point.
Yeah, it is. Worst timing.
If those roaches manage to get away from the SCV surround and get into the main, then QXC is totally off balance. Zerglings are streaming into his natural. He has to defend like one place or the other, and he's going to take game-ending damage at wherever he doesn't defend. But if he keeps the SCV surround, then all the roaches die. This isn't all in with all those drones down, and then QXC wins pretty easily. So it's right at the tipping point. It couldn't be any worse.
No, it really, really could not be any worse. So we are going to see whether or not this tournament will go down in history as an excellent use of resume replay or the biggest screw-up that we've had so far in Heart of the Swarm. Right, okay, so we're going to have to make this work. We're going to have our admin check the replay. Apparently, QXC's entire connection went down. That was not just the drop from the game. He lost connection to the internet entirely. We're going to have to take some downtime while we fix this, folks. Thank you very much for your patience, and we will be right back as quickly as we can. All right, okay. Now, this is ridiculously difficult, and this is why. So, we can see that we are currently in the game right now. We will need to make sure, by the way, that we are able to use the right camera for this. Because I believe it's the control and number keys. Things might go a little bit wonky all of a sudden. I guess we're about as ready as we're gonna be. There is no easy way of doing this, so just be prepared to potentially have to change your camera here on a very, very quick timing. Oh god. Alright, okay, here it is. And the engagement is now reoccurring. Control 7, 8, there we go. Right, it's Control 7. No, it's not that either. We're just gonna go with Kane's vision here. That's worked. Okay. Good God in heaven, what the hell is happening? Alright, so the roaches have come in, and the tank has popped out here as well. I'm currently on Kane's camera, because I'll be damned if I can... There we go, fixed it. And now Kane actually makes his way out of there. The roaches move into position. Tank is behind the Hellbats, though, so that is an efficient engagement for him. SCVs were, for the most part, saved here. 17 SCVs versus 13 drones. A great surround here by Kane as he moves in with the Lings, however. Things are not done yet. The Banshee is now out. There's Hellbats coming out as well. He is trying his best to try and save those SCVs, and he's doing a good job of it. This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. Another tank pops out. He micros it out of the way of the Lings as well. It looks like we're going to see QXC hold this.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I didn't realize that those couple of Hellions just killed almost everything back at home. We're now at 15 harvesters to 14 harvesters, but with 2 orbitals running mules, that's going to be a lot more mineral income for QXC. He's got that tank up. And we have no more units coming out from Kane, so he has fallen off. A couple of roaches, those will defend. More drones in production. So he's just going to sit back and go into a macro game. So the game might stabilize and just continue as normal from here. That's an absolutely amazing hold from QXC to actually stabilize that after the roaches took down all his Marines and STVs.
It's pretty damn phenomenal. I like the way that he also sent a lot of his units back. He took a bit of a risk doing it. If the roaches actually blocked off that path, that could have been pretty dangerous. He would have lost a lot of units there, but he managed to get most of his SCVs just by drilling them through and actually making their way back to the natural there. A couple of Lings coming in to harass, but as you said, stabilization is happening on both sides. Kane moving in with a couple of roaches will meet up with 3 Hellbats. I think Kane right now is just looking to do as much economic damage as possible. Even picking off 1 or 2 SCVs here is a big deal for him, as he's currently droning behind this. But there is a Banshee, a tank, and 4 Hellbats out on the field.
Yeah, definitely not going to do any more kind of damage. Look at his production. It's purely drones now, trying to deal with that Banshee. And also sacking that roach for just stacking a couple of roaches for a couple of SCVs. He's seen exactly what QXC has in terms of production. Those 2 factories, they're not really going to kick in for a dangerous attack for quite some time, as tank-based attacks need a lot of time to develop, build up that tank backbone. So he knows he can sacrifice those units to do as much economic damage as possible. At the same time, it's just going to be very hard to hold off that queen. Actually, he has quite a few queens built up, so I'm not really sure why he's letting that Banshee have such free reign over his 3rd base.
Yeah, it's denying an awful lot, but I guess the logic is that Kane just doesn't even have enough workers to saturate his current bases, so why even take the risk of having to dedicate to that? Maybe that's his logic, maybe not, but it does, of course, mean that units that pop out of the third or drones that pop out of the third could take damage. QXC is now going to attempt to make his way into the main base. There is a Spore Crawler there under Queen, so I don't expect this to do much. The Lair Tech is on its way here from Kane, and this whole game was a really weird situation, honestly. I can't imagine how ridiculously hard it must be to, after a 3-second countdown, go right into one of the most close engagements I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you were saying earlier on, it's just the absolute worst possible time for that disconnect to happen. It was right at the tipping point of the battle. But as it turns out, they ended up pretty even. QXC just trying to harass around. He's got his third orbital up and running. Kane's obviously pulled ahead in the worker count, but his tech is a little bit late, and his upgrades are very late. That's honestly the biggest problem. And he's actually going ranged attack, which makes a little bit of sense, as QXC is obviously going for mech play, so probably going Roach Hydra Viper. A big Hellbat drop, well, not a big Hellbat drop, but any Hellbat drop is pretty scary, but it actually doesn't get any drone kills. Kane responds very quickly, getting them out of the way, and then nicely blocking the Hellbat movement with his Roaches. So both players just kind of holding on to everything, not really taking any damage anywhere.
Yeah, this is bonkers, man. This is a crazy game going in here. We're currently at 43 SCVs, 50 drones, of course, the 3 mules right now coming in. 3 more factories being added on, so regardless of ridiculous damage on both sides, they're both going back into their respective styles. QXC really wants to play mech. On the other hand, his opponent is bringing Ventral Sacs into the composition.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a ton of drones, and he's actually stopped drone production. He's restarted Roach production. So I think he's probably going to be going for a Roach drop all in here. As soon as that +1 finishes, the Roach speed finishes, the lift upgrade finishes, he's just going to go all in on a big Roach drop. Because we see, yeah, pure Roach production coming out of him now. I'd be surprised if he makes any more drones at all. I think he's just going to go in everything on that attack. And we see no Widow Mines, no turrets, no anti-air really at all, no sensor tower. And it also looks like QXC might be taking the more exposed third as his CC is heading up towards the 3 o'clock base instead of the inset 6. And then also another command center coming, actually. So QXC not playing super safe. But the problem for Kane here is that just those Hellbats are so beefy. And those tanks, obviously, tanks are tanks. And it's just going to be a very strong anti-ground force he has here. So even with the added utility of the drop upgrade, I'm not sure if Kane's going to be able to break through here.
It's going to be tricky, there's no question about that. I suppose it's going to come down to how effective these drops end up being. If he just randomly scatters them around the place, it might not do the job. If he's able to specifically target the tanks and then take a good engagement against the Hellbats, that might work. So far, we've seen some pretty ineffective Hellbat drops from QXC. He is going for it again. It will most likely be spotted by this Overlord up to the top right here. But right now, Kane has the majority of his forces now pushing forward, looking to do damage, and Overlords are moving into position as well. The thing is, like, QXC knows what's coming here. Like, there's no way you would move that many Overlords unless you intend to drop with them. He sees the load up with the Banshee as well. How well can you really be prepared for this? He is unsieged, which is exactly the right thing to do, and he's going to ball everything up, which I definitely like a lot. That's going to give the Hellbats a great arc of fire.
Yeah, this is really Kane. If Kane drops on that, he's going to get destroyed. Army versus army, the Hellbat tank just beats this amount of Roaches, I really think. But it looks like he's moving into the main. I don't know. That's the worst possible place he could drop. He dropped everything very clumped up. The Hellbats are getting just ridiculous AoE against those Roaches.
There's the GG right there. That absolutely fails completely, and QXC has got to give a pay raise to that Banshee, because while it might not have done a lot of damage, it saved his ass seeing that coming. He was completely prepared for it. All right, we are currently on 1 game apiece here.
My audio just went completely screwy. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can just hear you right now. You just actually lagged out the game right as the game GG'd, but there you go. It's okay. You'll be all right. I think everything's fine. Yeah, we're cool on this end. The stream is solid, so, yeah, just a little bit of a hiccup. But, yeah, 1 apiece now. QXC takes an incredible engagement, 2 incredible engagements, really, against Kane, and ties the series up 1-1. And this is really starting to get very interesting indeed. Now we're going to take a quick break, folks, and when we come back after Greg's internet has settled itself down, we will be going to Game 3 of QXC versus Kane. It's going to be interesting. I don't think anyone's going to doubt that one. It's already been a rather explosive series, and I want to see more of it. We'll be right back. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like I'm going to have to solo cast this one. Greg's internet connection's gone down, and we waited a good amount of time. He has not been able to get it back yet, so... Yeah, we don't need a land mode at all, do we? Not that that would have helped in this scenario, but you get the idea. so I'll solo cast this one. We'll see how it goes. We're going to start on a Whirlwind right here. This is, of course, Kane's map choice. Currently tied up 1 apiece in this best of 5 series. That was wild. Insane. It's so weird to have to resume in that kind of situation, but there's no other way to really do it. If you resume before the Banelings actually connect, then you get that chance to target fire, whereas you didn't have that previously, so that would have given an unfair advantage to QXC. But all credit to him, he held like a champion and was able to take that game. Very, very nice indeed. I don't think there really is an ideal scenario there. It's just, you've got to just make the best of it. Even if you regame in that situation, it's not fair, so... And there was definitely no way to determine who was ahead there. It's really odd because, honestly, like, we thought he would probably hold, considering we looked at it and was like, right, well, it's going to be a tank, there's going to be a Banshee. It all comes down to how many SCVs that really end up dying there, because so many SCVs have gone down to those Hellions. Alright, we're going to see some cross-position play here on Whirlwind between this guy right here. He has ROOTKane, and the Red Trunks playing Zerg to the northwest, this particular map. Versus his opponent, it is Complexity QXC. He is in the Blue Trunks playing Terran to the southeast. Just give me a second. Dealing with 50 things at once here. Hopefully... Alright, cool. Excellent. QXC played brilliantly. He really, really did. Absolutely fantastic defense there. And we'll see what he decides to do. He's gone CC first pretty much both games. And I'm intrigued to see if he decides to do that again. On a map like this is an ideal place to do it, but it's also an ideal place to metagame the hell out of your opponent if possible. Kane picked this, so he looks like he wants to be in to the longer game. We're going to find out very shortly what QXC decides to do. If we see a barracks follow-up from this, I think I'd be fairly surprised. He's actually queuing SCV, so that is guaranteed. This is something to spot, by the way. It's just a little thing. If you're curious as to whether or not you're going to be seeing like a barracks follow-up, see whether or not a pro player queues like 3 SCVs after the supply depot goes down. Because if he does, that means he's going to go barracks. Not going to go barracks, sorry. He's going to go command center. Yeah, I almost sounded smart for a second until I screwed it up, but there you go. He will go command center in that scenario, because there's no point in really wasting APM and wasting effort to build 1 SCV at a time when you know that you're going to need 400 minerals. It doesn't make it any better. Looks like we're going to be seeing the CC on the high ground here as part of the wall-off, and a hatchery first play here from Kane. Absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But he yeah, he's going really early gas. Like, this is actually even earlier than they did previously. Gas on like 14, 15 supply. That's pretty cool to see. I'm intrigued as to whether or not we will get to see a little bit more cheese from Kane. We definitely didn't see that in the previous game. We saw QXC go for the Hellion drop play. Like, 2 failed Hellbat drops, but the Hellion drop was the one that actually did the damage. And I'm going to be entirely frank here. I think that Hellion drops are a really great way of dealing with the current metagame of the overall notion that Hellbat drops are just super efficient in every possible scenario and can't possibly fail. Because you're expecting that to come in, and Hellbat drops do have some weaknesses. And the speed is the biggest weakness. If you see it coming in and you have a second or two to react, you can pull the drones. And then what will happen is, unless you pick up the Hellbats and then drop them again, the Hellbats are just going to kind of waddle around the place and not really do an awful lot. Their target fire is also annoying as well, because if you don't specifically control them, they'll actually go after the Queen instead of going after the drones, which is very, very annoying to deal with. Hellions, on the other hand, there's a reason Hellion drops used to be so damn good. It's because as you pull drones off a line, they tend to line up as they're going to the next base that they're trying to run away to. So the Hellions will be able to chase them, they're fast enough, and they will be able to kill them. It is, of course, less durable, but you get double the Hellions. It is, of course, a larger investment, however. So it's a bit of a toss-up, but I actually do like Hellion drop. I think it's a really good strategy, and I feel that the overabundance of a Hellbat drop leaves a really great opening to just say, you know what, I'm just going to go Hellion instead. And sometimes you see a player even go for transformation servos and then turn Hellions later on into Hellbats and so on and so forth. But most of the time, the gas really isn't worthwhile. QXC going for his standard defensive bunker right next to the mineral line. Really great spot if you want to kill offlings that are attempting a massive run by. Also means that you do get the arc of fire that can actually hit the ramp here as well, and it's in a good position so that you can't get a full surround on it and take it down quickly. We are seeing the factory here from QXC, and we're going to be seeing a reactor. The timing is slightly off on the reactor there, but we'll probably still see a swap over, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see the same kind of Hellion play. There's the lift, as you can see, so it will be a swap. In the meantime, pretty much nothing but drones and like 2 lings and a decent amount of queens. 3 queens already here for Kane, so we're going to be seeing some decent creep spread here, and this very early metabolic boost, which means that he actually has speedlings before the first Hellion even builds. So if Hellions do attempt to come out on the map here and we don't see the drop play, then this could get shut down really hard, really fast if Kane elects to do that. The problem with electing to do that, there we go, almost let that one in, but there you go. The problem with electing to do that is that if you dedicate too much to lings and you allow like 4 Hellions just to really screw up your build order and you don't end up with enough drones, then you can end up in a really annoying spot. One way or the other, QXC is now building his 3rd command center, so we're seeing the same kind of greedy play here. Another gases being added on here. Kane going up to 3. Not seeing the lair take out of him as of yet, but it should be coming our way any moment now, I feel. He is now starting to build up gas at a reasonable rate. He's got all 3 in there. He's putting down a little bit of static defense here. The first Hellions are now out on the map. He has 4. He's not going any higher than that. He's adding the 2nd factory on there and then the starport. So QXC will attempt to control the map as best he can here. What we might see is, of course, a Mutalisk style, possibly from Kane, but with 3 gas, it's unlikely. We're going to see double evolution chamber. So Ling Baneling is the standard style if you go double evo chamber in this, but you might see Roach and Hydralisk as well. That still works from time to time. I'm intrigued to see which one it will be. QXC is going to attempt to have a look around and see if there's anything fancy around the place. He knows about the 3rd base, can't really do anything to it yet. There's enough queens out on the map to make this Hellion prospect a little bit difficult. He is currently up to 6, though. He's actually going up to 8. So I would expect to see either Hellion elevation play or just straight up Hellion dropping coming in from there. There's the Ling style, so we're definitely not going to see Roach Hydra. We're most likely going to see Ling, Baneling, Mutalisk into Ultras, and that's a great style to play. I've seen Terran struggle with it so much lately. Viking being added on here. I like that decision from QXC. Gives him a little bit of tank vision if he needs it. Also lets him kill off the overlords and just gives him a little bit more map control. Means that his drops are safer as well. QXC heading out, and he has control of Zelnaga Watchtower. This run by is going to come through, and it's going to spot that there's no 3rd base down yet. QXC deciding to back off, actually. I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought he might go for a drop, but not yet. There's the Baneling nest coming up, so it wouldn't surprise me at all to see the Spire. He is currently on 6 gas, so there's no way he's not going to build the Spire. There's no reason to have that amount of gas. There it is. There's the Spire. And the Armory coming in as well. So we will see Hellbats eventually, with another factory being added on here from QXC. Upgrades-wise, of course, he hasn't started any because he's playing mech and he doesn't actually have an Armory. QXC looking for the drop, boosts forward, and prematurely kind of runs into a little bit of trouble there, taking significant damage on his medevac. That's going to limit him quite a bit. But I think he's setting up for a double Hellion attack here, where he's going to try and push here, draw the queens out of position, but there's already enough lings moving in here to shut this down. The lift-up will come in, however, and he did do some significant damage to that ling count, so if you get some good drops, this might work. Oh, the drones are in a great spot. Nice move there by QXC. Those queens were not quite enough to make that happen, and significant damage already being done. This drop kind of been scared away. 6 workers killed so far. Not the best. I mean, in trade for 4 Hellions, I wouldn't necessarily say that was all that great, so I completely miscalled that. Kane actually bunched all of his units together, which sounds like a bad idea, but it's a lot better than lining them up. So Ling's now going to track this drop, make sure that nothing happens. There's a significant number of Lings on the map, actually 45. I'm actually kind of surprised that QXC is allowing his opponent to get so many, and this counterattack on the 3rd could very much deny it for some time. Lings come in, and oh, wow. Those Lings didn't even attack. I think it was actually the tank that ended up killing that one there, and there's the denial of the 3rd base for a little bit of time. But he's pulled the majority of his Lings back here. Baneling speed on the way, plus Mutalisks on the way as well. And we've got Drilling Claws. So we're going to be seeing Widowmines and a bunch of Hellbats coming out of here as well. So QXC secures his 3rd base and doesn't take too much damage in the process. And now sorry, what am I talking about? Kane is forced to pull back. But now he's got the Mutalisks coming out. And this mech style right now, as you can see, is ridiculously weak to that. I'm very, very surprised we haven't seen missile turrets coming out yet. Widowmines will, of course, come out, and they can be good, but again, it's a bit of a coin flip. Maybe you get a good hit, maybe you don't. The Engineering Bay is a much better choice here, I feel, just to get some missile turrets out to make sure these Mutalisks don't do too much. 3 Mutas already spotted here by QXC's Hellbats, Hellions, in fact. So a Thor's going to come out in response to this. However, the mutas are currently forced to try and do damage to this drop. They are actually, I think, going to be able to shut it down before it drops. There we go. One down. Close enough, and that Hellbat doesn't even get in. So, currently, Kane is really dealing with Hellbats incredibly well, I've got to say. Mass Widowmine style. This is the style that Greg actually called earlier. 5 Widowmines coming out at a time. Double Thors as well. Annoying to deal with. Very annoying. It can especially catch your opponent off guard if you didn't start building Widowmines in the first place. So your opponent is thinking, well, he's playing Ling Baneling. More of the point, he's playing Mech. So this is what I've got to do here. And then suddenly there's like 10 Widowmines that you have to deal with. You run your army into it, and things start to get very ugly very quickly. There's actually no Overseer on the... 2 Overseers, in fact. Ignore me. There are 2 Overseers on the field right now. Kano making his way over to the 3rd base. There is 1 missile turret, but there's plenty of Widowmines available here. 2nd missile turret there as well. So this is exactly the wrong angle that Kane wants to come in at, as you can see. An attempted Widowmine drop has been picked up already. There's the deployment. So it's going to be tricky, but this is a large map, and Kane does have plenty of openings. He borrows a couple of Lings here to prevent an expansion. And let's be honest, Kane actually hasn't taken that much harassment damage at all. There's only been 6 workers killed the entire time. He's shut down drops very effectively here. His Mutalisks are kind of being forced to... Oh, that was a lovely trick. That was a fantastic move there by QXC. He actually stagger drops the mines and gets all 4 detonations off there, doing significant damage to the Mutalisk pack, taking it down to 9. Lovely technique. Really, really like that. I wouldn't go anywhere close to this opening here with those Mutalisks right now. They're way too damaged. So Kane's going to have to wait for some regeneration and obviously some more Mutas to be added onto the pack here. Currently still no successful harassment by QXC, however. As nice as a move that was, he did invest a Medivac and 4 Widowmines into it. He's now relying on this big powerhouse play where he just adds a ton of command centers. Starts to replace some of his SCVs with mules, I would imagine. But in the meantime... what do we got? The stat. Alright, cool. We're back up. Sorry about that, guys. There was a quick hiccup in the connection. So I think we're about ready to get going again. Looks like Time Warner had a hissy fit. We are right back, however. Everything is back up as it should be, and we will be right back into the game. Excellent. All right, so QXC is now pushing forward with a large number of Widowmines. Yep, he's got a ton of them. And Banelings are now making their way in. And what's going to happen is... those Widowmines will be cleaned up, but not without doing some damage. However, they're being cleaned up by Roaches, not Banelings, which is a nice trade. So there are now 9 Widowmines coming out at any given time. Absolutely huge in that respect. Drops ended up happening here from QXC into that mineral line. He did a ridiculous amount of damage with that. I'm really annoyed that I missed that. Unfortunately, it happened at just the wrong time. We got that disconnect, so I was all over the place. But that was massive. Wow. Widowmine drops have absolutely decimated the economy of... Kane so far. That is nasty. He's had to build a ton more drones to replace that. His economy's pretty good already. I mean, he's taken 4 bases, so things are looking pretty solid for him, but this mass Widowmine drop style, now with 12 Widowmines at a time coming out here, he's basically playing mono battles, and that's very, very hard to deal with. We're seeing Zerg Flyer Carapace upgrade coming in, as well as range upgrade here as well. QXC wants to be a little bit careful not to get those mines caught out of position. There are, of course, Thors and tanks now available in this composition as well. Big shelling coming in, and the Roach is taking a lot of very, very big hits. The Mutas coming in as well. There's the big borrow. This detonation's going to be massive one way or the other. Pretty much everything dies as a result of these Widowmines being deployed all over the place. However, Kane is getting the better end of that engagement as he's picking off a lot of high-value units here. He did lose pretty much all of his Mutalisks, though. Thor plus Widowmine, that entire flock got decimated. And even QXC actually picking the Thor up. What on earth is he planning on doing with that? Is he seriously going to go drop this Thor? I don't know what he's planning, but this is amusing to say the least. We're going to see a Thor drop here from QXC. Things are getting really wild really quickly. Currently, the situation is that QXC does have the larger army. The economy is actually in favor of QXC now as well because he's been able to expand out to those bases. More Widowmines are detonating all over the place. Kane is just running into them. It's very, very difficult to detect that many. There's 25 mines on the field. He's going to go to about 40 mines in this game, which is insane. Almost lost that Thor there. He's now going to try and drop it into the main base. There's really no evacuation potential here. This Medivac is way, way too injured. He's going to start to actually work on the gas and the spawning pool here, which is a fairly nice move. There we go. Now he wants to go after the Queens and the actual drones himself. This is not actually a well-upgraded Thor. He's playing an upgradeless mech style, which I have not seen ever. This is really funky stuff. And now he's going to BCs! This is actually something he's talked about in the past. This transition through the battle cruisers against Zerg. He said that this is viable. Now he's going to try and prove that is the case. Widowmines get... Oh, he's missmicros those all the way into the middle of that. That was disastrous, losing a bunch of Widowmines. Not that he can't replace them, but it would have been nice to have more of them. Vipers spotted here as well. That single Thor could actually knock a couple of those Vipers out of the sky, maybe, before his opponent is able to respond to that. But this game is wacky, to say the least. Mass Mine coming in, double Starport, Fusion Core, 5 base Terran, and battle cruiser transition. 10 Hellions coming in the meantime. This single Thor is like, hey, sup, this is fun, isn't it? I've got 11 kills to my name. This generally doesn't happen. Kane might look to actually go and clear that up, but these Widowmines are slowly encroaching on the position of his opponent. A tank drop comes in, and is starting to eliminate the tech here, knocking down Spore Crawlers and trying to take down the hatchery. And engagement comes into the side here as well. Widowmines borrowing as best they can, getting a couple of shots up at the end of hitting the Overseers instead. Reinforcements will be caught out here as well. This is nuts. This game is nuts. Kane is going for Roach Hydra when his upgrades are... Yeah, he actually did change his style over. He was going the Ultralisk style, but then he started upgrading ranged weapons as well. Big tank shelling coming down here as the engagement continues. Hellbat's trying to move into the composition, but this is a big army here from Kane. These Thors are definitely not enough. The Blinding Cloud shuts the tanks down completely. And there are engagements all over the map. Widowmines being dropped here. There are tanks here. There are Widowmines here. There is a Thor here. What is happening? Kane is now trying to engage and is trying to catch his opponent before the battlecruisers come out. The Fusion Core could get killed here, and it probably will unless Kane decides not to engage against it. And there are tanks here, but there are Vipers moving in. There is the Blinding Cloud coming down once again. Kane makes his way into the main base. The battlecruisers are still on the way, but they take forever to build. And actually, these will not get built. They will be shut down before that even happens. QXC is in a world of pain here as Roach Hydralisk, a weird change comes into play. This single Thor is a big hero. It is Captain Thor looking to save the day, knocks down the Hydralisk den. The Widowmines, of course, preventing a lot of reinforcements from coming in, but can QXC actually hold on? He's slowly whittling away the attack force. This battlecruiser is actually going to finish. That might be very, very helpful here indeed. The second one does not. But bear in mind, QXC still has a lot of bases available here. These Widowmines are continually getting great hits. These Widowmines are preventing the reinforcements from coming in. This medevac is just having a look at the situation and saying, I don't even know what's going on here. Mass Mule Drop to repair Hero Thor. Commander Thor on 23. The battlecruiser is now out on the field now and is trying to do its best. There are Widowmines all over the place. Kane's attack is actually starting to peter out. This style is working somehow, some way. This Thor refuses to die. It's now going to be on about 1 billion kills with a huge amount of repair going into it. These Widowmines continue to kill all of the reinforcements. This is the wackiest game I've seen in a long, long time. QXC is going to clean this up. There's no question. The BC now moves into play. It is going to kill that Viper as well. Kane is, by the looks of it, going to lose this game after... The Spire's down as well. This Thor is ridiculous. This Thor is on 31 kills now, continuing to make its way through. QXC just played the craziest game of StarCraft I have seen in a long, long time, and it looks like he should be able to win this. Kane is not out of it yet, but there is now a battlecruiser on the field. We're going to be seeing another one. The worst, we do not pause. Yeah, let's not do that. That would be a really, really bad time indeed. And we will be continuing. QXC is now pushing forward with a huge amount of Widowmines. This Hive looks like it's going to get knocked down here as well. The Thor is continuing just to work its way through it. This Thor is on 40 kills now. These Widowmines are on an absurd amount of kills each. That's a Sergeant Widowmine. Generally don't see that all that often. Planetary Fortress runs into a bunch of roaches, not the other way around. That Planetary Fortress is very assertive, as you can see here. And we are now in a situation where QXC is looking very, very likely to win the game, although Kane is not out yet. Miss micro there by QXC, losing a bunch of Widowmines. Not exactly what you want to see at all. More detonations go off here. QXC is about maxed out, though. 12 more Widowmines. Banshee being added on. The Thor's still alive. It's on 48 kills. It just has killed the entire base, and there is the GG. Have you ever seen a game so ridiculous? Probably not, but you have now. Welcome to ShoutCraft. We like to do things a little bit funky here. Unbelievable. I don't know what to say about that game. Greg was mentioning the Mass Widowmine style, but that big transition and that single Thor was ridiculous, and it just did not die. It killed the entire main on its own. What a hero. I'm flabbergasted. What a cool game. All right, folks, we will be taking a couple of minutes to get Greg back onto the call, make sure everyone is lag-free, and we are about ready to kick it back off. Problems is probably the best way to describe what's been going on here. A combination of our modem burning out, quite literally, replacing the modem, dealing with Time Warner cable support to get things going again, and massive ping problems to every ingest server on the planet. Which is hilarious and awful. But it's where we are right now. I've had to make some adjustments to try and keep the stream stable. Gunrun's been helping me out with this. We have no idea if it will hold up. We really hope that it will. If it doesn't, well, the only thing that I can say is that we're really, really sorry about it, and we'll be doing the rest via VOD. Seems like the best way to do things. What you're going to notice is most likely a decreased quality on the stream. This also means that 60 frames per second will not be happening. We recommend that you watch on 720p, not 720p plus, because we're currently using a variable bitrate codec. Yeah. So that's my explanation. And again, we're really, really sorry about this. Obviously, this stuff is entirely outside of our control, but I'm really sorry for wasting your time. And we hope that it works from here on in. Greg, welcome back.
Thank you. Glad we're finally back up. Hopefully it stays up.
And that would be nice, wouldn't it? We'll see.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, I don't know if it will, but we'll find out. It's not nice to have to take like an hour-plus break from a tournament thanks to all of this nonsense. And obviously we have to apologize to the players as well, because this is not what you want in the middle of a series. This is a really bad thing indeed.
Yeah, I feel by far the worst for the players, because like in either situation, but obviously worse for Kane as he's down, having to sit there and stew on that for an hour. Probably not playing warm-up games. Your hands are getting a little bit stiff. You're just thinking about the match, and like you don't really want to think about it too much. It's good to have time to prepare and think things through, but you don't want to sit and stew on it. You kind of just want to keep playing. It's just very frustrating in that position.
Yeah, definitely, and we're very, very sorry about that. So, here is hoping that we'll be able to get back into the swing of this. We're just waiting for QXC to be ready. He's just had to take a quick timeout. And hopefully he will be ready to go momentarily, but such is sadly the way of things when it comes to the internet and stuff involving the internet.
Looks like QXC is ready, so we're going to get started.
Excellent. Good. Right, so we're going to the second lobby now, and we should be into the game momentarily, and here's hoping nothing else ends up going wrong. Currently the stream shows pretty solid. We have no drops, so hopefully it remains that way. And yeah, we replaced the modem, so it's not the modem. We replaced the router, so it's not the router. And we've done everything we possibly can to make this, work on our end. So here's hoping that it actually keeps going. It's a shame because it mars a great series, and unfortunately you actually had internet problems as well, so you weren't able to cast the third game between Kane and QXC, which was pretty wild.
Yeah, I watched a good chunk of it on your stream. That Thor got 4 important building kills. I don't know if this ever happened before, like a single one. And then the amount of units he ran over the Widow Mine trap, like, it's understandable. That's a situation where you're finally breaking a Mech Terran. Mech Terran is so frustrating to play against in those situations. Yeah. You finally break him, you're just like, I want to rally units at him until he gets out of the game. That's all I care about. And then you just slowly get whittled down by all those little things you're trying to get past. Yeah,
I mean, you were actually talking about his Widow Mine style before we started the series, and he broke it out. So I was just really impressed with how that ended up going, but it was just a wild game. There was not a lot of control from QXC's side. It was just a case of there are so many mines all over the map, and there is so much crazy stuff going on that you kind of just have to ride out the storm, I feel.
Yep. Yeah, I know a lot of viewers were talking about how sloppy Kane looked during that, and he didn't handle everything properly, but that kind of game, it creates sloppiness, particularly from a Zerg player, because it just requires a lot more attention to negate mines than to place them, and especially when there's that many, it kind of amplifies, in proportion to the number of mines there actually are. And so, Kane looked really sloppy, but it's just so hard to play from that situation. It's almost understandable some of the mistakes he was making.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a point that you brought up about running over that Widow Mine repeatedly it's just a case of you're trying desperately to hammer down his main base. I mean, he was inside that base for a good couple of minutes, and he was destroying production, and he was fighting as more Thors, more tanks, more Widow Mines kept coming out, and his reinforcements were rallying over that trap over and over again. And then that Thor, that was a strange Thor indeed, and when he finally did come to respond to it, there were 5 mules repairing it, so it didn't care.
Yeah, that was QXC does that kind of thing a lot. You see that a lot out of him, but it's just so effectual. He's just willing to do things that a lot of Terran players don't consider worthwhile or don't even give a second thought to, and sometimes it works out like that.
It was insane. All right, folks. After a long delay, we are back here on Bel'Shir Vestige with this guy. He is ROOTKane in the red trunks, playing Zerg to the southeast versus his opponent, who is currently up 2-1 after a wild game on Whirlwind. He is Complexity QXC in the blue trunks, playing Terran to the northwest. Alright, Whirlwind was a huge map. It allowed for some pretty crazy plays. This, not so much. What would you expect? If you were down 2-1 in this series against a player like QXC, what would be the kind of thing that you would pull out of your Zerg hat?
Well, Kane showed he really wanted to play aggressive the first 2 games. I'm not sure how he opened Whirlwind, as that was when I was trying to get my connection back up.
Yeah.
But the first 2 games, Roach all in, like a Nidus Roach all in, and then a pretty heavy Roach Bane all in. So he was definitely looking to play aggressive, but we also know he's capable of playing the macro game. He is a pretty diverse player. We have that Ultra Rush build, well, not Rush, but very fast Ultra build that he's pulled out in series before. So he's really capable of doing anything, and on this map, I think he's likely to go more for the macro game, because particularly if QXC wants to play mech on here, the big thing about this map is that there's so many different paths around. There's 4 or 5 different ways to actually get across the map and be separated from an army onto the other path. And that means that counterattacks and high mobility kind of armies are great on here. So this is a bad map for mech. And QXC's bio honestly just is not as good as his mech. So I think Kane really would like to emphasize that and get into a macro game, just make QXC either play uncomfortably or play an inefficient style for the map.
Now we're going to see a Reaper opening here from QXC, not something that we've seen from him so far, I think, in this tournament. He has, for the most part, just been forgoing the Reaper, unless he goes for the crazy kind of 2-barrack style with multiple Reapers, but of course in this case he's not going to be doing that. So pretty standard scouting opening, going to give him a nice bit of information. And usually you generally expand after this, and you usually don't see more than at maximum 3 Reapers come out of a single barracks, but he's going to go for 2. We'll see if he decides to go for the full 3, and that's going to tell us whether or not he's just interested in scouting or whether or not he's interested in doing damage.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Kane is opening Speedling again this game without actually scouting, so he's going to be in great shape to just deal with this, because he will have that Speedling out. Plus, he didn't have to spend the drone scouting. I'm not sure how he knew it was going to be a Reaper opening this game. Maybe QXC always goes Reaper on this map. But after opening double CC and drone scouting every time to not drone scout on here, that works out quite nicely for him. It's kind of weird, though.
I think it is one of those interesting situations, as you mentioned earlier, where these guys play each other so much on the ladder that they're a little bit further inside the heads of their opponents than you would otherwise expect in a normal tournament.
Yeah, that is honestly one of the most interesting aspects of this tournament, just because everyone plays in a ladder, everyone plays on their own IDs for the most part. So everyone has a lot more knowledge about their opponent than you usually get in competitive scenarios. And the mind games that stem from that are just incredible. Like, usually you think a cheesy player would have a disadvantage because their opponents know that they're going to cheese, but then they can actually go around the other way and they can play a super greedy build or different cheeses than they normally do because they know their opponents are going to have this set idea of them, and just it keeps going on and on like that with everyone trying to outguess each other. So
that's very true. It's really, really cool to watch.
Yeah.
Alright, now we have QXC getting aggressive. He's going to use these 2 Reapers here. He does actually have a third. Funnily enough, there is actually a Ling that made its way in here somehow and managed to kill itself. It's going to kill 2 SCVs here. This is a pretty damn good Ling.
Yeah, it killed 2 SCVs, it got full scouting information, and actually slowed down the CC just a little tiny bit. Plus, at the same time, those Reapers do nothing as QXC's attention was split.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is so effective, because when someone does open 2 Reapers, part of the benefit from opening up with those Reapers is the map control. So you're not really worried about defending your base, you're not making other units, you're not thinking that you're going to be under pressure. So if you can manage to sneak even a couple of Lings around, that kind of thing happens surprisingly frequently. And it really worked out well for Kane there.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Getting 2 workers with a single Ling is very, very unusual, and even getting the scouting information is great. And now the Reapers are forced backwards, having not being able to do an awful lot. We have an interesting Speedling flank now, just running around, getting map control, putting on just a little bit of pressure. If the Reapers were out on the map again, or if there was a Hellion or 2 out of the map, that might be able to catch it. That's kind of what Kane's trying to do here, and maybe just, if possible, slow this down. But of course, there is the bunker up. Oh, and very, very quickly lifting that. Nice actual arrangement here by QXC, I noticed, with the add-on also providing a partial wall off rather than just the building, so he was able to stop that from happening.
Yeah, that did kind of save him, the fact that he was switching his buildings at the time but didn't manage to get in anyway. However, he did have those 2 Hellions, but the big thing is it would have gotten scouting information, it would have seen that 3rd command center, then he would have known exactly what QXC is doing. And we actually see double engineering bay coming down from QXC, so he will be playing bio this game. And this is it's standard, but it's greedy. It gives you a very good economy, very good upgrades, all off almost no units. But at the same time, it is the standard build because as Terran reacts properly, they can't hold off anything, even with such a greedy, powerful opening. So QXC going to be in pretty good shape as long as he scouts everything. But it looks like Kane's not even going to try and bust it this game. He's just going straight up to Lair and getting his double Evo chambers going for upgrades themselves.
Yeah, getting up just a few links here and there because, of course, there is the possibility of a little bit of pressure from these Hellions and Reapers. And they'll poke a little bit. They're not going to do much to that hatchery. There's nothing mining there anyway. They do get some information. There's a bunch of Lings actually trying to set up a run-by here, which could prove to do damage. There's nothing really there to stop it. There's a couple of Marines in the bunker, which won't stop the right side of that mineral line getting hit.
Yeah, he is definitely at least a couple SCV kills there. QXC responding immediately, saves the rest of them. And that bunker will chase off the Marines, or the Zerglings. However, that does pull the Hellions and the Reapers back kind of unnecessarily, but the really nice part about that is those Reapers and Hellions aren't in Kane's face now. He's free to drone up, just continue to spread his creep, and just kind of secure his own bases because QXC is worried about defending the Ling counterattack.
Yeah, and QXC just hunting the Lings down and actually missing them, funnily enough, over to the side right there. So they are going to play a further part in this game regardless. Going to see Spire on the way here from Kane, who is looking to go all the way up to 6 gas.
Yep, Spire and a Baneling Nest, double upgrades, all going very normally, but kind of low economy. We don't see a 4th hatchery. He's just now getting drones up at his 3rd base. Generally, Zergs, at this point in the game, they do have more drones. He's been producing a ton of Zerglings, and he's being pretty active with them, but he hasn't really gotten too much return on that investment. He hasn't gotten a ton of SCV kills, not nearly enough to justify his Zergling count. And so his economy is going to be a little bit behind where you honestly want it to be at this point in the game. And the lack of a 4th hatchery is especially concerning, because really, Zerglings are cheap. You need a lot of larvae to be able to produce many of them, and Zergs normally have at least 1 macro hatch by this point in the game.
Yep, and he certainly does not. Looking at the gas count right here, as his Spire is a good 30 seconds away from completing, we can expect to see probably maybe 9 or possibly even 10 Mutalisks coming out. We'll see whether or not he decides to dedicate to an upgrade style with that. With double upgrades, it can be pretty difficult to go triple upgrades, especially when you want to actually get your Baneling speed down and burrow as well. So we're going to be seeing some mind play, which I'm looking forward to. That's always the most fun thing to watch. Armory-wise, QXC is looking to start his double upgrades very, very shortly as soon as this armory finishes. He is he's just on the amount of the gas, so this is actually quite nicely timed here. And we will see the flyer attack upgrade as well. That's a huge amount of upgrades going on at once. And, well, he heard your plea, man. He's got 2 hatcheries down now to help out with this.
Yep, that will definitely help out. It is very interesting that he's going that air upgrade because, as we've been talking about all through and kind of hoping to see, he does that fast ultra build. Yep. And generally the +1 muta attack, that generally signifies that you're going to go more heavy mid-game, you're going to produce more mutas, because Broodlords aren't nearly as prevalent in the matchup as they were in Wings of Liberty. So you don't those upgrades don't really scale as well to the late game if you're going to be more reliant on ultras than on Broodlords. So I'm not sure if he's going to have a mass muta style to show us, or if he has something else up his sleeve.
I'm intrigued. There's already 1,000 gas in the bank right here, and now he's starting to bank up those Mutalisks. We've got Lings just being annoying around the side. They did kill an SCV or 2. Kane's consistent Ling run-bys are certainly doing work, but as he pointed out earlier, they're not doing a huge amount of damage. This might. He's able to make a few passes over the supply depots, does a little bit of damage, takes a few tank shots in the process, forces a big stim out from QXC's Marines, which actually don't have any medevacs right now, so that's not a good position to be in. A couple of rolling Banelings get killed before they're able to burrow, and actually revealed burrow there as well to no gain, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but that was definitely a good attack for Kane there. He didn't even lose many of his Zerglings, and he got quite a few Marine kills, and it also showed him tanks.
Nice.
And the fact that he knows that there are tanks out does alter the way he's going to play quite a bit. It means... Well, I mean, it means that you don't have to worry about Hellbats and Widow Mines, and any Zerg is going to be pretty grateful for that. And also, QXC has an undefended mineral line over here that Kane is hitting immediately with his mutas, taking down all the mules right away, quite a few SCVs as well. Really kind of sloppy by QXC.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't at least just put a turret down. He's now building them, but he lost like at least 4 mules there, which is about 1,000 resources worth of work. They were fairly important. Now we got Lings trying to get the surround here. Good shot off by QXC's Hellions initially. Now making his way off creep. The surround is going to happen, though, and that will die, so it was only really a matter of time. A lot of Lings did go down in the process, but now on a macro hatch and 4 bases, things are looking good. QXC not really able to drop to the side here either. The Mutalisks are still active on the map, so drop play is going to be restricted.
Yeah, QXC, with the loss of those Marines early on and the fact that he's investing in tanks, he really just doesn't have very many units. And Kane has total map control now. Good overlord spread, good creep spread. He can shut down any kind of drop play. And it's not like QXC has enough units to actually do any kind of diversionary attacks. He has to keep all his army together, or it's just going to get run over by those ridiculous circling numbers. And it looks like Kane is actually going to do a slightly delayed 2-2 timing. He's making a bunch of banelings. He has all these units out here. He's looking like they're ready to go in for an attack. And we don't see 2-2 timings too much anymore because of Widow Mines. But against tanks, it's very effective. And there, a dropship is actually going to spot all those units there. So QXC should be prepared for it, but it might just be too many units for him to actually hold. That is a ton of Zerg.
We've got the Mutalisk wheeling around to the third base once again. There's only one missile turret there and a tank, which could be very easily picked up. Nice move, I think, by Kane to pull his army back, actually, and make sure that QXC's army was a little bit out of position. But QXC responds very quickly. The sensor tower did go down, which is always nice.
Yeah, taking that out is going to open him up for later harass, but the Mutas actually run into a Marine Pack, loses a couple of those, and a Medevac did sneak its way around, but the Zerglings will be able to shut that down.
So many Lings in the natural right now. That was a huge run by coming in. Most of the Banelings do get to the mineral line as well, and a big detonation goes off. Merely a lot of Banelings used for that, but there are Zerglings all over QXC's natural right now, causing a huge amount of problems. Marines dying as they get out there. They've now made their way into the main base. The economy of QXC is getting trashed here.
Yeah, Mutas at the same time going in the third, but plenty of turrets to turn those away. And all the SCVs down, both the main and the natural. But he is losing a lot of units for this, and QXC has a pretty decent Marine count built up. And at the same time, a drop was running around distracting Kane. So, I don't know. QXC might be able to do a counterattack here, but he's just lost so many SCVs now. He now has less than half the worker count.
Yep, 47 dead from that. That was a really nice attack there by Kane. Kane's army supply is still really large. Like, he's about to actually max out again. Admittedly, he is pulling a lot of Mutalisks, which may very well not be so good in the fight against that many Marines with those kind of upgrades, but with that many Banelings as well, and starting 3-3, QXC, I think, realized it's going to go in. Also, his medevac count is pretty low, which is not good when you're doing mass stims like that.
Yeah, all of his Marines are in the red health. Without the medevacs, those are just going to die at the first Baneling hit they take. I don't think he can afford to push forward in that. He will just get absolutely destroyed if they take a straight-up fight. Loading up a couple of medevacs and going around, but that's right next to the army anyway, so easy enough for Kane to respond to that. And really, it's looking like QXC is kind of running out of options. He just has such a weak economy after that attack by Kane.
Yeah, losing those 2 dropships is absolutely massive. He only had 5 to begin with. Now he's got 3. He lost 16 Marines to no effect there, and Kane outnumbers him so much. I mean, there's almost a Baneling for every Marine here, and the Mutalisk count is ridiculously high as well, with good upgrades. They're rolling in right now, and I do not see QXC surviving this.
No, definitely not. He caught him out of position, and he could have fought the army straight up anyway, but now QXC has to run back into it.
There's
QXC
the
doesn't even
GG.
try.
Nicely played there by Kane. Very dominant performance, I feel. QXC not really able to handle Kane at all, and now that ties the series up 2-2, and we're going to be going to the 5th one, which is fantastic, and also means that the map that no one wanted to play will be the map that is at the end. We'll see which one that is. I actually can't remember which. That would be Neoplanet S, actually.
Yeah, everyone hates Planet S. I think that plays into QXC's favor. It is a pretty okay mech map, and just as Zerg is pretty uncomfortable because it's so hard to take expansions. But it's just a very uncomfortable map for everyone. There's so many different attack paths. It's very short. The third base is very difficult to take. There's no better word for it than uncomfortable.
Yep. Well, we'll see who can actually pull out a good build on it. They had to be expecting that this would happen, that it may very well go to the 5th game, and these guys looking pretty evenly matched, but QXC just seemed to... I mean, there was a couple of little run-bys here and there that did a little bit of damage, but I think it was just effective strikes by Kane just to keep his opponent on his toes, and also denying drop play. There was little harassment from QXC before the Mutalisks came out, and as soon as they came out, drop play didn't really become so much of an option.
Yeah, and I really dislike QXC's decision to go tanks as well. Widow Mines and Hellbats both are just the much better options now. Like I said, QXC not as comfortable with bio as mech, I feel, and we just saw that there. Kane didn't do anything amazing. He made good decisions, he took good engagements, and he macroed well. But it was really just QXC not having enough units, getting caught out of position, not having the best composition. Just really kind of disappointing. I kind of hope he'll play mech here, because I think we'll get a much better game out of that.
Okay, we will go into a very quick break, folks, while we set this up, and we will be right back. too much already, so we will be going into Neoplanet S, the map that is not exactly comfortable for anybody.
Yeah, the fact that neither player picked it so far is very telling of that fact.
Yes, indeed. It has actually been the least picked map in the tournament so far. Those who have picked it, I believe, have had very specific strategies and have been pretty successful on it. But aside from that, it has been vetoed at every possible opportunity by the vast majority of players. Along with, I mean, Star Station, I think, was the second most vetoed map. It depended on the matchup, though.
Yeah, both maps have very difficult to take thirds, and everyone likes to get up to that third. Oh, except for Hello Kitty. Everyone likes to get up to that third base and just play where they're comfortable from into a macro game. You know.
All right, well, let's see who can break something out here on a much more aggressive map that doesn't really preclude using those thirds, but pretty damn close to the southwest position in the red trunks. Playing Zerg, he is ROOTKane. Versus his opponent to the northeast position in the blue trunks playing Terran, coL.qxc.
Yeah, Kane has shown a definite tendency to go for roach aggression, and if you're going to do it on any map, this one is as good a choice. Because very short rush distance, pretty open, low ground natural.
Yep.
Not impossible to hold by any means. You have a little high ground cliff over the choke, so he can put stuff up there. If he wants to rush out a tank, that would just absolutely shut it down. In fact, it would be pretty smart of him to actually try and go for that, because I think a roach bane bust is a pretty decent prediction in terms of strategy from Kane. And then as for QXC, I think he just has to go mech. His bioplay just isn't nearly as good at it. It doesn't play to his strengths at all.
Well, it certainly didn't help him in that game, I'll tell you that for a fact. It was almost the case if he couldn't even get his bio out on the map to do anything with it anyway. So even when he did have to take those fights, they were in really uncomfortable positions. We've got Command Center First coming down here from QXC, reverting back to what he is comfortable with here. Do you think Command Center First is a bit of a risk on Neoplanet S?
It's so rare for Zergs to actually open up with a quick pool, because if you actually put the command center in your wall and complete the wall in, then even then, with command center first, which is literally as greedy as Terran can get,
yeah,
the 10 pool doesn't do anything if it's actually in the wall. So in order to have any kind of early Zergling rush work, you actually have to have the CC on the low ground, and it's a gigantic risk to take to expect your opponent to do that. Anything else, you just run into a wall, it does nothing. So really, the CC first isn't much of a risk, just because no one's likely to actually go pool that early.
Always good to know. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it on the ladder if you happen to be a low league, however.
It may be a bit more dangerous then, yeah.
Just a bit. I had a period of time where for about a week my philosophy was CC first or die trying, and it was mostly die trying.
Yeah, you get a lot more Zerglings at that level.
You do indeed. It is unfortunate. One way or the other, this is a higher level, and Kane is mining gas once again. Kane definitely has not shown a tendency towards the more gasless queen-heavy style. He likes to get that very early speed out, and it does set up quite nicely for that earlier roach aggression that you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. Kane, I believe he's open speedling every single game thus far, and Kane is one of those players who used to be really cheesy, and he's developed out of that, but he still has that aggressive tendency in him.
Yeah.
And that actually makes him a very dangerous player, as he's now good enough to play out a macro game with pretty much anyone in North America. But he also has the ability to play those cheesy builds and to do those aggressive styles, which means you have to play much more cautiously against him. And opening up with speedling every time just kind of exaggerates that fact, because it always gives him the potential to do anything that he wants, and it also gives him the map control of the speedlings to prevent your scouting. And then, as we saw in the last game, he can just go ahead and put down a third hatch and play macro anyway. So it's really good. Just a really good opening for his style. It really complements him well.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's actually the same kind of style that we saw against Massa, which was a big aggressive back-and-forth game. And he did take out Massa 2-0 in a pretty convincing fashion. But it was always the aggression. I don't really remember a game from... yeah, I'm pretty sure he played Ling Ultra in both games, actually, against Massa. And it was that strange cheese early against QXC that really kind of threw me and said, this is not Kane's style. But at the end of the day, as you accurately mentioned, he has so much up his sleeve that he could pull out anything. But of course, he's up against a player that can do exactly that as well.
Yeah, but really, I feel that the mind games have been going in Kane's favor thus far. He's accurately predicted QXC playing pretty greedy, very tech-oriented openings, and he's punished that a couple of times with those roach all-ins. On Acolyte, it ended up not actually winning him the game, but he made a good read on his opponent. He did a strategy that coulda, shoulda, woulda worked, and just QXC held very well and then transitioned out of it very well. And the follow-up cheese was what actually cost Kane the game. So I feel like he's playing pretty intelligently for his opponent's style, which is something that we had to question going in because he's not as much of a tournament player.
No.
Not a whole lot of best of fives under his belt, but he's been playing it very intelligently thus far. And we see actually no Roach War in this game. He is putting down that third base, so we're not going to see another Roach Bane bust.
Let's have a look. We are looking at. We're only seeing 3 gas being taken so far, but he also hasn't built his lair either, so I'm intrigued to see where this goes. Obviously, with the double Evo chamber, it's extremely likely that we will see the same Ling Baneling into Mutalisk style, although it's not entirely impossible that there might be something else.
I think as he's gotten a pretty good amount of scouting information here. He sees the 2 factories, so probably going to have to respond to that with Roaches. Not sure. He does have Spore Crawlers up. He sees the Hellbat drop coming, the potential Hellion drop.
And there is the missile attack upgrade.
Yeah, he is preparing for that, and yeah, definitely going into Roach Hydra. It'll be interesting to see how he actually responds to this. If he's going to try and do another Roach drop all-in, or any kind of all-in like he did on Acolyte in response to Mech, or if he's actually going to try and play this out into the long game like he did on Whirlwind. And unfortunately for him, he lost both of those games, so he doesn't really know what kind of style he's most comfortable with here.
No,
but that Medevac might actually fall. Medevac just barely gets away with 3 of the 4 Hellions.
I don't think he was expecting 3 Queens to just be sitting there. Evidently not. He didn't respond that quickly to that at all. That drop was shut down very convincingly there by Kane. And this Medevac's going to have to go home. He can't risk taking that into a base filled with anything.
No, one more Queen touches that and it falls apart. Yeah. But those Zerglings are still on the map. He did salvage 3 of them from that. So the attack didn't do any damage, but it didn't cost him too much, and it's still a pretty comfortable opening. His 3rd CC is coming up. He's already getting upgrades. He has more factories coming. And just the threat of drops later on in the game, threat of Hellbats, that has to put Kane kind of on the back foot. So it's not like a failed opening by any means. And getting quite a few drone and Zergling kills, this is a really terrible position for Kane to try and engage with those Zerglings.
Yeah, I mean, with 9 Hellions in the mix, there's no way he's going to be able to go in there without at least some Queen support to make this work. He goes in anyway. He will be able to drill his way through there eventually, and that was surprisingly efficient considering what he was doing, but there's only so far you can really go with that, and QXC is going to be able to get out of there having only lost 3 Hellions. Number of workers killed is 13, so that was a great strike.
Yeah, 3 Hellions for 13 drones, and pretty much all of the Lings he had on the map. That's just absolutely massive. And that's more than paid for the failed drop. And speaking of drops, we actually have another Medevac, except loaded up with Hellbats this time, headed across the map. There's already a Spore Crawler there, but if he chooses to boost past it, he can get into the mineral line very easily anyway.
Well, this is starting to look a little bit uglier for Kane here. And the road speed is on the way, but there are no roads on the map. Double 4 is coming out from QXC. Something, I mean, I see mech style used an awful lot, but double 4 this early is a little bit out of the ordinary, I would say.
This far, he's only seen Zerglings and the double Evo chamber, so he may be worried about a Mutaling Bane all-in or something of that sort, so he wants the Thors to counter the Mutas. That's the only thing that really makes much sense to me. Because you're right, generally, in this case, and just generally, people will go Roach against Mech, and thus you only want tanks and Hellbats out. More Hellion harass down the 6 o'clock base, doing more and more damage to Kane's drones.
Yeah, Roaches are now finally out. 24 workers have been killed in total, which puts QXC in a pretty damn good spot. And we would have to see another big round of drones coming in from Kane. I mean, he can't sit on 50 drones on 3 bases. That's not going to work, especially if he's going for this big, expensive Roach style. And now we have QXC sitting with these Thors, which is such a strange thing to have at this stage. And a pretty early tech to hive here from Kane as well.
Yeah, exceptionally early hive. That almost must be for very fast Vipers. And Roach Hydra Viper is very good counter strategy to Mech. Particularly on a map like this. The problem with Roach Hydra Viper is that if you split the map and Terran just plays very, very defensively, you're going to end up with almost wasted supply. You're not going to be able to break them, and it's just, more Hellbats in the 6 o'clock, just constant harassment down there, never letting Kane get his drone count up.
Yeah, this is really, hurting him badly. The Queen count is definitely helping. He's gone up to 6 Queens, which is a decent way to clean up Hellbats. Thankfully, Queens don't die too quickly to that, but regardless, QXC is definitely keeping Kane on the back foot here. The 3rd base was established. The Lings unfortunately engaged against a single Hellbat and it didn't really go all that well for them. And now QXC is mining pretty comfortably. He actually hasn't rallied his SCVs, so he's going to have an idle one there, but he notices that pretty quickly, so no big deal. Roach attack. Well, this could definitely do something. The tanks are out of position to deal with it, so yeah, this could do some damage, but he just forces his opponent off the mineral line, then immediately backs off.
Yeah, unfortunately for Kane, he's had to spend all of his production replacing those drones that he was losing, and another drop coming in, and this one shut down, so he has kind of establishing himself, but actually another Hellbat drop coming in. And this is where QXC gets so annoying. He's very, very persistent about just the constant drops and harassment all game long. He's very comfortable with the efficiency of his units on the defense. He feels that if his opponent wants to attack him, he's going to lose workers back at home. And that's really the best part about QXC's mech. And like I was saying, he's had to spend so many larvae trying to replace those drones that he just has no standing army. There's no threat to QXC at all.
No, there really is not. 60 drones versus 73 SCVs and 7 mules coming in on the field. A massive economic lead there for the Terran player. Viper's on the way, and Kane is definitely struggling here. QXC does not have a particularly big army, but he does have a lot of tanks. And as you said, what's Kane been able to do? Roach Run By comes in, at least delays this command center a little bit, but now there's Thors, Hellbats, and tanks on the map, which will be able to handle that without too much of a problem. He's even going to go for the Supply Depot wall-off right there to ensure those run-bys can't really happen anymore. Kane's in a tough spot. Where does he go from here?
His best bet is to just hope for a really good engagement. Vipers can be incredibly cost-efficient against the mech army. If you get all the tanks sieged up in one group, the internet blipped for a second, but it looks like it's fine.
Yeah.
But if you get all the tanks sieged up together and you get a blinding cloud over them, that can just completely turn the tides of a battle. But Kane just has so few units, even with really good blinding clouds. I'm not sure if he can do very much about this army.
It's big and scary and has a lot of firepower with it. It's 1-1 upgraded, so Kane does have a lead in that respect. He's about to finish +2 as well, which is always nice to see. There's the blinding cloud going down the tanks, quite nice. And those tanks won't really be doing all that much. Pretty decent engagement so far here by Kane. QXC surprisingly did not unsiege anywhere near as quickly as I thought he would, and he's going to lose all of the Thors here as well. So, you were talking about that good engagement. Well, that was exactly what that was.
Yeah, that one absolutely as well as Kane could hope for. QXC moved out too early, to be honest, and Kane just pounced on it, took absolute advantage of it. But really, another Hellbat drop down at the 6 o'clock, forcing the drones off that again. And QXC just a ton of production back at home, 3 bases running full swing. So that was as well as Kane could do, but he needs another 3 or 4 engagements like that to actually make it back into this game and really have much of a chance at winning.
Well, another Hellbat drop comes in, and this will get shut down. Noticing... Man, I look at Hellbats, I'm like, why don't these things die as quickly as they're supposed to?
That is the biggest surprise about them. It's not really the damage they deal. Everyone knows that they kill anything light that gets close to them, but the real big thing is just how tanky they are. They take a ton of damage to actually take it out. And part of that, of course, is because the medevacs sit there healing them the whole time. And just more Hellbats down at 6 o'clock. And behind this, QXC is doing something really smart. He's actually double expanding again. And the problem with his style is it's so annoying that Zerg feels like they have to be all over the place, and so on top of that, it becomes very hard to actually control the map. So QXC just expands everywhere and hopes that some of them will get up because his opponent is so distracted. And if he manages to get a planetary at one of those 2 bases, all of a sudden he's at 4 base versus 4, and there's nothing Zerg can really do about it.
Yep, QXC has another army up, and he's going to play the very, very turtly mech style, whereby he even puts down missile turrets, knowing that he doesn't really have an awful lot of anti-air. In fact, he has basically none, aside from those Vikings there. A couple of Roaches managed to find a command center. We had actually Ling... Oh, QXC actually hasn't put that down yet. He's a little bit busy dealing with this massive Roach run by that completely circumvented his army and came around behind it, and is now going to make its way into the natural here, but this kind of has to be a really good strike for Kane, because if he doesn't get out right now, he's going to be trapped.
Yeah, but he did realize that the army was coming back and that it would be out of position, which gives him the opportunity to come in here with the blinding clouds and the abducts.
Very nice.
Because the tanks aren't set up, so this is a really good engagement for Kane here.
Yeah, more blinding clouds come down, and he loses some Roaches here and there, but he can definitely afford it. He has the upgrade advantage now with +3. This Planetary Fortress barely lived through that, and that was a fantastic play there by Kane, and he puts himself right back in front after that one.
Although, we do have another 2 Hellbats, kind of the story of the game. Another 2 Hellbats over at the 9 o'clock base, actually just hitting the hatchery. So if he holds back at home, then he might be okay, but that's just such a big army, and Kane's being so very efficient with it. QXC, more tanks set up back at home, but there's plenty of mana left on the Vipers to actually just nullify them.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job with the blinding clouds here. QXC not being fast enough to undeploy, and these Roaches are so low, but he's still able to do damage with them. This Hellbat will probably kill like all of them, but you know, it's pretty good anyway. And now we've got more Hellbats popping out. The SCVs are coming off the line here as QXC tries to get an efficient hold here. That hatchery did actually die to Hellbats, so we can officially say that they pretty much kill anything on the ground now. And now the Roaches are coming in and dealing with this natural, and QXC is taking a absolute pounding here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if QXC is actually going to be able to stabilize here. Kane is very nearly all in. He only has 3 bases running, and they're not on full drones. And QXC has that top left secured, but if he can't do anything about this army, then that's going to be the end of it. It's into his production. He really, really has to clear this up, and I don't think he can.
I don't see what he can do it with. You know, there's a lot of roaches here. There are still Vipers. There's a couple of Vikings now making their way out, so at least he can take the casters out of the mix. But even then, there's just a lot of damage to try and deal with. There are more roaches following this up. He may be able to get enough units out, but it also matters about where they pop out. If they pop out in the middle of the roaches before they're able to do anything, just like that, for instance, then they're not going to be of any use. And that one's actually too close. The roaches are going to kill it over the cliff. And it's now 149 to supply to 89 as QXC continues to try and desperately hold on here as Kane just hits everywhere he can.
Yeah, this is the same situation as the Whirlwind game, except it's going much better and there's no Thor. Kane, he smells blood. He wants to go in for the kill. He doesn't want to keep dealing with the super annoying mech style of QXC. So he's just rallying units to his opponent. He doesn't care what else is happening back on the map. He's just going in for the kill. And it looks like QXC's kind of stabilized his main, but going to lose the third base now. Yep. He's lost a lot of factories. He just can't produce anywhere near the rate he has resources coming in. But more Hellbats out attacking on the map. 6 o'clock under attack again, but cleaned up. And that's just a big mass of roaches running around, and QXC doesn't have any answer to it for the time being.
No, he doesn't. Unless Kane decides to back off, which it looks like he is for the time being. That might give QXC a little bit of breathing room, but QXC is way behind at this stage. There's no real question about that. He has an upgrade disadvantage. There are more Vipers coming onto the map here as well. Kane is grouping up a large number of units, and this planetary is going to be... yeah, it's going to be on borrowed time, I think. That's not going to be living for too long at all, and Kane has found it. He knows it's there, and is now going to go and engage it with everything he's got, and this could very well be a planetary that dies in about 2 seconds. Yep, that was about 2 seconds. Ouch. Never mind.
Yeah, but top left is up and running. If that manages to stay for any length of time, if we look at their incomes, they're actually relatively similar, which is surprising given how much damage QXC has taken.
Yeah.
And QXC does now have mech units up in a defensive posture, which is very, very difficult to break, but it's more than a 100 supply lead. I don't know if QXC actually can do anything with it, despite how efficient his position can be.
Yeah, it's difficult. It really, really is. We still see this kind of lower tech army, I guess, from Kane, but with Vipers in the mix, especially with those upgrades, I don't see that mattering. I mean, I don't suppose there is a transition out of Roach, Hydra, Viper, is there? Unless it's some weird, funky tech switch.
You can start mixing in Ultras. You can mix in a couple of Broodlords as a Siege Breaker. If you have a ton of economy, and your opponent does as well, then you can just lose everything and do a massive Broodlord switch and catch him off guard, things like that. But in a low econ situation like this, absolutely not. He's going to stick on Roach, Hydra, Viper and just wait for a good opportunity with his Vipers. More Hellbats in the 6 o'clock base, cleaning that up. And the hatchery is actually down to about half health now. But he does keep all of his drones alive there.
Yep, pretty damn important. QXC just trying to stabilize and trying to get as many units out on the map as he can. But we're looking now at 200 supply Zerg versus 96 supply Terran, and even an upgrade advantage in the favor of Kane. This attack could very well be the end of QXC's tournament life here.
Yeah, it definitely should be. If there's no way Terran can hold this off. It doesn't matter the amount of tanks and Widow Mines and whatnot he has set up. He has no real answer to the Vipers. He can abduct everything, he can blinding cloud everything, and a max of Roach Hydra, not the most efficient composition, but going to be more than enough to just slam through here.
Yeah, QXC actually taking a bit of a risk, sending 5 Hellbats out, looking to try and engage here. The thing is the static defense being built, and here comes the engagement, and this could very well be the end of QXC's tournament as Kane goes in, and there's the GG, and Kane will advance to the round of 4.
Yeah, really great play by him. There were times during that game where it definitely seemed like he was down and out of it, but just kept his head about him, got really good engagements, and just kept dealing with the super annoying Hellbats. Managed to pull it out.
And those Hellbats were all over the place. They really, really were. Just, it was looking so bad for Kane for a while.
Yeah, it's really kind of admirable how persistent QXC is with that harass, no matter how much attacks he was taking, how much pressure he was under, how bad the engagements were going. He always made sure that he had a counterattack going on, that he had Hellbats out on the map. And that's just so important to keep in mind with this kind of thing. And it's something most players can't do. Most players don't have the presence of mind to do that while they're under pressure, and he did. And it almost swung the game back for him while he was at a big disadvantage. Just, it wasn't enough to deal with the massive units coming out of Kane.
Yeah, and I've got to say I really liked Kane's positioning when he managed to avoid the main army, swing around to the south of the map there, pick off the tanks at the back, pick off the reinforcements, and then take a favorable engagement against unsieged units in the center of the map, and that really swung the game back in his favor.
Yeah, that's definitely what won it for him. That initial move out by QXC was kind of questionable, and Kane won that battle decisively, but that wasn't enough to pull him back into the game. It was the fact that he caught QXC out of position, he took advantage of it, and then he realized exactly where he needed to engage to make the most out of his Vipers and to make the least out of QXC's tanks, and he did it perfectly.
Nicely played there by him. All right, well, after a lengthy delay, we will be going on to the third series, in fact, which will be Minigun versus Drunken Boy in a bit of PvT action. And we will be taking a brief break to get that sorted out. Thank you very much for your patience today, folks. You're watching ShoutCraft America. We now know, of course, who the first round of 4 contestants will be. It will be Ghost User versus Kane in the round of 4. 2 Zerg enter and 1 Zerg will leave, going through to the grand finals, and of course that will all be played out tomorrow in a best-of-7 format. Let's find out who will go into the second semi-final. Minigun versus Drunken Boy coming right after this.